Triangle is a remarkably fresh mystery horror film directed by Christopher Smith. The film depicts an eternal time loop immersed in the eerie atmosphere of mysticism, a person abandoned by time, a mother seeking redemption. Triangle delivers a true mind-bending cinematic experience, offering various interpretations and prompting viewers to revisit it multiple times to fully grasp its hidden meanings. If you want to fully enjoy the experience, please come back later, as this video will reveal all the mysteries of the film. Today we will analyze and explore the subtle details that the director has intentionally embedded throughout the story. Jess is a single mother living in a peaceful Australian town, portrayed by Melissa George. One morning, as she hurriedly prepares breakfast and takes care of her autistic son Tommy, she is reminded of a planned outing with friends on a yacht. The pressure of life and its many hardships push her to the brink, leading to a loss of control and a tendency to lash out at her autistic child. The moment Jess slaps her son becomes a turning point, one that fills her with guilt and ultimately traps her in an endless time loop. The film can be divided into three main loops: the initial stage leading up to boarding the yacht, the second loop involving the group of friends caught in a bloody battle aboard the ship, and the final loop where Jess drifts ashore, returns home, and comes face to face with death. After a violent storm, the group of friends finds themselves adrift in the vast ocean. In a moment of seeming hopelessness, a mysterious ship suddenly appears, the Aeolus. The name evokes the legendary wind god from Greek mythology. At one point, Aeolus gave the sailor Odysseus a bag of winds to help him sail smoothly home. However, driven by curiosity and doubt, Odysseus opened the bag, causing the ship to be blown off course and dragged back into the journey. This serves as a metaphor for the mistakes that trap Jess in an endless return. When the group boards the Aeolus, they enter the Grand Hall, and Jess asks Greg for the current time. He replies 11:30, but both Jess's watch and the hall's clock show 8:17. This detail suggests that, for Jess, time has stopped forever. As the group walks along the ship's corridor, they stop in front of a photo labeled Aeolus. Sally makes a remark referencing Sisyphus, the son of Aeolus, the god of winds in Greek mythology. According to legend, before his death, Sisyphus instructed his wife not to perform any burial rites for him. After descending into the underworld, he pleaded with Hades for 3 days to return to the world of the living and ensure his body was properly buried. However, in the end, Sisyphus broke his promise and did not return to the underworld as he had vowed. This act of deceiving death condemned him to a horrific punishment, eternally pushing a boulder up a hill, only to watch it roll back down each time he neared the summit. This myth is the philosophical backbone upon which Triangle is constructed. Anyone who attempts to deceive death, like Sisyphus, will be punished by being trapped in an endless loop. Perhaps the most perplexing and also the most compelling part of Triangle lies in the events aboard the ghostly ship, the overlapping and interactions between multiple versions of Jess, and the shifting relationships as these incarnations gradually emerge. We can identify 3 primary versions of Jess: the first who boards the ship, the second who is already there and confronts her. In one pivotal scene, Jess fights and knocks Jess 2 inches overboard. The current Jess then tries to escape, only to endure 2 more cycles. At that point, all 3 versions of Jess coexist simultaneously. One who has just arrived, one beginning to understand the loop, and one who fully knows the rules and willingly carries out the killings to ensure the cycle continues. Rather than dissecting the loop logic aboard the Aeolus, let us focus on the director's narrative design. A key rule governing the loop in Triangle is this: when the last of the 5 friends dies, the group resets entirely, initiating a new loop. This explains why Jess witnesses her friends returning to the ship, beginning the cycle anew. It's implied that the loops aboard the Aeolus may occur far more frequently than the segments involving arrival and return to shore. Melissa George portrays all 3 versions of Jess with striking nuance, especially through her eyes, which reflect fear, hysteria, cruelty, helplessness, and even fleeting moments of empathy. We can observe a scene where Greg is about to enter a room marked 237, a number that coincides with the house number of Jess at the beginning of the film. Director Christopher Smith borrowed this symbolic reference from the classic horror film The Shining to depict the fracture in reality, a subtle reminder that time inside the loop is completely frozen. In addition, Triangle also draws upon the central theme of original sin from Samuel Taylor Coleridge's epic poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. The apple represents original sin, a biblical symbol, which appears when Jess throws it at the seabirds pecking at Downey's corpse. This act signifies that the catastrophe is rooted in Jess's own moral failing. In the poem, the mariner's crew hangs the dead albatross around his neck as a reminder of his sin. In Triangle, the photo of Jess's son worn around her neck symbolically equates the boy to the innocent albatross, wounded by his mother's cruelty and selfishness. Jess, burdened with this unatoned guilt, is condemned to wear that necklace, a symbol of her sin, forever, trapped in eternal remorse. At the end of Triangle, the final loop is depicted when Jess falls into the sea and returns to shore. She comes back home and sees her son through the window. In that moment, Jess witnesses her own past mistake, the cruelty she inflicted on her innocent child. Realizing this, she decides to kill the short-tempered version of herself. Notably, the masked Jess who gets shot in the head bears the exact same fatal wound as the Jess seen earlier on the ship, symbolizing the convergence of identities across the loop. Jess and her son then drive down the road only to hit a seagull, an ever-present bird throughout the film. This event signals to Jess that she has not escaped the cyclical fate. Fate repeats itself. The car crash kills her son. The time of death is marked at 8:17, a time that signifies when time has ceased to move forward. The parade music playing along the road eerily mirrors the melody heard from the ship's gramophone, reintroduced here in another form. One final symbolic touch. The pattern on the parade drum is identical to that on the drum in the ship's restaurant. After the car accident, the camera slowly pans toward the figure of the driver. The film's lighting clearly shifts from bright to dark, and the background music transitions from emptiness to an eerie rhythm. At this point, the identity of the driver becomes ambiguous and mysterious. The conversation between Jess and the driver resembles a dialogue between the dead and death itself. Perhaps driven by guilt and maternal love, Jess chooses to step back into the loop, hoping to save her beloved son. The taxi driver brings her back to the harbor. Upon arrival, he tells her that he forgot to start the meter, an unmistakable sign that time has come to a complete halt. Then the driver asks,
"You will come back, won't you?"
Yes, I promise.
Jess agrees and never returns. This moment symbolizes her breaking a promise to death. That broken promise becomes the key, echoing Sally's earlier explanation aboard the ship.
He cheated death. Or no, he made a promise to death that he didn't keep. I studied it, but I can't remember. Can we just keep on moving, please?
Jess becomes forever bound to the cursed vessel, a punishment crafted by death itself. This segment appears at the very beginning of the film. However, we can observe that Jess seems dazed, as if fragments of her memory still linger. At this point, she and her group of friends head out to sea, marking what seems to be the start of the story. When Jess dozes off on the boat, it subtly signifies the beginning of a new loop. Jess appears to forget everything that happened.
This terrible dream.
What about?
I don't remember.
Entering a foggy, confused state, and Jess becomes increasingly disoriented, as if all prior memories have been wiped clean. Perhaps, had Jess not lost her memory, she might have been able to break the cycle entirely, simply through a shift in her awareness and choices. In each cycle, Jess holds the axe, both executioner and victim. Every embrace with her son feels like tightening the screws of her own torment. As the screen fades to black, the ship continues drifting through the depths of her consciousness. The ship's horn echoes as a symbol of endless inner suffering. Triangle may not be the most perfect horror film, but it uses the concept of an endless loop to expose the raw nature of humanity. People cling to even the smallest hopes, unable to escape the pain that repeats over and over again. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to support the channel. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next review.